This training session by the Green Berets is part of a little-known U.S. campaign to help Honduras combat drug trafficking and gang violence. Sending U.S. commandos into Central America is already a complicated proposition, raising uncomfortable parallels to the 1980s, with associated scandals involving death squads and shady arms deals. But the security situation in Honduras is so desperate, and the U.S. role so low profile, that the presence of the Special Forces has raised few concerns thus far.
Scenes from a video Wall Street Journal report by Michael M. Phillips on U.S. Special Forces helping in the fight against Central American street gangs in Central America. Now, allegedly, the goal is to promote stability and security that will, quote, naturally protect our southern border. So will this really help deter illegal immigration into the United States? Let's discuss this with our panel. Joining us via Skype from Tampa, Florida, Lieutenant Colonel D. Scott Mann. He's a retired Green Beret and author of the book Game Changers, Going Local to Defeat Violent Extremists. There's a bit of a delay in our audio with Scott. I just want to make you aware of that. Also with us from Newsmax Washington, retired Army Colonel Patrick Murray. Patrick served in Iraq, Russia, and at the United Nations. He is also the author of the book Government is the Problem. And so, Patrick Murray, first to you. Since government is the problem, here's the curious thing to me. We've got all the notorious Central American gangs already here. MS-13, take your pick. How is going down there going to help us? Isn't it a matter of too little, too late?
Well, good evening, JD. Yeah, listen, MS-13 is pervasive in America. They're even right here in Washington, D.C. now. They're at this end of the tunnel, if you will, for drug trafficking coming in. And I think the concept here for SOC South is to do a little train and equip down there, especially in Honduras. 2 years ago, Honduras had the highest murder rate in the world, highest homicide rate. It's down about a third now. And so many of the illegal immigrants that were coming in from Honduras were kids that their parents wanted to get them away from this dangerous situation. In principle, if we can do something on that end of the tunnel, then with minimal influence from us, then I don't think that's a bad thing.
Scott Mann, the name of your book is Game Changers, Going Local to Defeat Violent Extremists. With a title like that, does it apply to the context of street gangs in Central America?
Hey, thanks for having me on, JD. It absolutely does, and I'm going to speak to this as a Green Beret that spent 10 years stomping around in those jungles all over Central and South America. And I will tell you, this is absolutely the best application of this type of special operation south of our border that we can do, because it builds capacity from the bottom up. It's a good investment of blood and treasure. And you know what, JD? We've been doing this for decades, man. Down in Colombia, it's been very effective. It takes some time, but frankly, and I talk about this in my book, we should be doing this within more in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in the rough country, because this is how you help locals stand up for themselves, and it really does work.
All right, we will take that under advisement. Let me move around the globe now to the Middle East. Syria in flames after Sunday's attacks there leave over 130 people dead. In fact, yesterday's attack, the fourth such attack in 3 months, all of them perpetrated by ISIS. Now, Patrick Murray, this is all against the backdrop of an agreed ceasefire between Syrian rebels and the Assad regime, scheduled to start February 27th. Is this really going to happen? I understand there's some speculation or some questions about the terrorists really agreeing to a ceasefire.
That's exactly right, JD. Look, whatever Kerry is able to negotiate with the Russians are going to play him like a cheap fiddle, just like they've done before. It's all going to be in the interest of the Assad regime. And if anybody thinks that ISIS or the al-Nusra Front or a lot of the other militia groups are going to adhere to a ceasefire negotiated in Geneva, that's just not going to happen. These attacks by ISIS, al-Nusra, and others are going to continue unabated.
Let me turn to you, Scott Mann, as we take a look at some of the violence from this weekend and those heavy casualties. Is it absurd to expect a ceasefire to work? And how honest a partner will Russia be in all of this? Do we still need to worry about Mr. Putin and what his end game is?
Yeah, it is absurd. I mean, does anyone watching this really think that Russia's going to be a responsible partner in this game? It's just laughable to me. They're not going to be. They're going to be. They're going to foment instability the same way that Iran is. And I agree. I agree with Patrick. You know, the fact is ISIS is operating under a doomsday mindset, and these guys are all about disrupting any way that they can. And this just is not how you get at these guys. And frankly, it's making our position untenable the more we approach it this way.
Well, it used to be speak softly and carry a big stick. Now it's talk loudly and carry no stick at all. Patrick Murray, last word to you on this.
Look, Assad is a butcher. He's a horrible guy who is exactly zero threat to the United States of America. And Obama's never going to find the stones to stand up against Putin on this. We need to leave that side alone and go after ISIS, stop the pinprick attacks of 10 or 15 sorties a day and make it about 1,500 sorties a day. And that's how we get at these guys, both in Raqqa as well as over in Iraq, before they continue to expand, which is what they're doing right now on Obama's watch.
And you know, gentlemen, to close, just a comment from me, we have the paradox of having both sides against the middle here. The fact that the regime in charge, as heinous as it is, presents some stability in a perverse way for the Christians living there. So it really is a quagmire, and obviously it doesn't get better when you trust the Russians or you expect to trust any of the terror groups involved there. We thank you both for your time. Again, the name of Scott Mann's book is Game Changers, Going Local to Prevent Violent Extremists, and Patrick Murray is the author of Government is the Problem. We'll be back right after this.